What's up, everyone, and welcome to the RRBG podcast. We have a special episode for you today. I actually met up with the homie Javier Reyes of Animals as Leaders and Mestis. We met up and went and had lunch, and I decided to bring some equipment and just record the whole thing, and he agreed to do it. So we sat down, had some food, had a conversation about the new Animals as Leaders record, Parisia. We talked about his writing process. We talked about anxiety and mental health. It was really great catching up with him. We've been homies for a while. I've been wanting to do this episode for years, actually. So I'm glad it finally happened. There is a moment where in the cafe, they started having live music. So there are some noisy parts near the end. So I apologize for that. But I tried to clean it up as much as I could with some Pro Tools. Hopefully, it's not too jarring for you guys. But anyway, great conversation. Thanks to Javi for hanging out, having lunch with me. Make sure to follow him at Javier Reyes S on Instagram, or just Google Javier Reyes, Animals as Leaders. Make sure to check out that new Animals as Leaders record, Parisia. It's fantastic. If you can, follow us, subscribe, hit the little hearts, hit the notifications, comment, leave some comments, leave some reviews. Let me know how the show's going. I'm trying my best to make it interesting. And if you want to support, you can go to patreon.com/RRBG. Cheers. Thank you for meeting me. I think this is the first time we've hung out not at a show.
This is true.
After how many years?
I don't know. It's a long time.
We were just talking about that. What was that show? The
Social Club.
2012?
Yeah.
When's the first album?
2009.
2009. And what was the first tour?
2009.
2009. So probably...
No. I think the album came out. Yeah, the album came out 2009. I think the first tour was actually 2008, maybe.
2008.
Fuck.
Before the album came out.
Yeah, so the album was leaked. Like, wasn't leaked. Like, when Tosin and Misha finished it, they literally put it up on MySpace, like the whole thing. And it didn't come out officially till 2009. Okay. But I think, yeah, what was that? Was that the case? Like, either it was either 2008 or 2009.
Okay. I mean, I know that's actually how I found out about the band. It was Misha. I found his Bulb solo stuff.
Yeah, he had tons of stuff up.
And I like that because I had never heard anything like that. I'm kind of, when it comes to music, I'm a simple guy. You know, like, I grew up with Pantera, Metallica, I mean, like most people. So when I heard Bulb stuff, I was like, I've never heard anything like this. And I know there have been other, whatever you call it, like, what would you even call your music? Like, the genre?
I mean, you know, without coming up with a single word, I would say, I would consider us more in the prog metal than gent. But but obviously there's parallels, and we definitely do genty stuff, but we're also doing proggy stuff. But even with that said, you know, I think there's stuff that Animals does, even in prog metal, that other prog metal bands aren't doing, that kind of helps us stand out, you know, in a weird way.
Well, everyone that's watching and listening, I didn't do a proper intro, but welcome to the RRBG podcast. I'm here with Javier Reyes, my homie, El Cosmic Papi. So I was listening to the new album, Parisia, on the way here, and, you know, going into the prog thing, like, it feels like you're doing stuff to kind of, not impress, but just kind of fuck with musicians, to me.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
100%.
And like, it's exciting to me because every time I hear a new album, I'm always like, what are they going to do next? What kind of crazy shit are they going to pull out now? Right. So, I mean, that's the intention going in, more or less. Not the intention, but, you know, you have that in mind.
Well, yeah, in a way. Obviously, there's a lot of, the nature of the band is always to be like extreme, right? Guitar centric, drum centric. And with every album, and I think it's not that it should be, but I think most artists would like to not necessarily repeat themselves, right? Like, or what else can you add to the catalog, you know,
Right.
that isn't the same album all over again, because it gets old, right? You know,
Yeah.
obviously scenes also change, the people's listening habits change. So if a band doesn't evolve, not to say that they don't have to evolve with that, but if they don't just evolve in general, then I think eventually it starts to sound aged.
Formulaic, yeah.
Yeah, you know?
Yeah. It happens to some bands, some great bands that I love.
Absolutely.
But, you know, they have their rhythm. Hey, we've got successful. There's like a #1 album, so like they want to try and repeat that success, you know?
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. There's no one way to do it. There's also some bands that literally stick to doing the one thing and they keep doing it really well, and they're bigger than ever, sort of, you know?
Yeah. I mean, and no offense, we're not, I don't think it's a bad thing, like we said, but like Municipal Waste, they're going to be thrash. You know what I mean? It's going to be
obviously.
thrash. Every
Meshuggah
album
is going to be Meshuggah.
Yeah.
Tool's going to be Tool.
Yeah.
You know? They don't, in some ways, they don't need to change, but they've also, like, I don't know, defined a sound.
Yeah.
You know?
Do you have any fear sometimes, like when you escalate things like the way you guys do with each new album to kind of top yourselves or maybe do something that you've never done before? Is there ever like a fear that you've gone too far, or that maybe, you know, I don't know, you'll run out of ways to evolve that sound?
I mean, no. I think the fact that the band's instrumental. I mean, also the fact that we all listen to a different variety of styles of music.
Mm-hmm.
You know, even within Animals as Leaders, we have our limitations of what we can and can't do, right? So I think there's, you know, take, for instance, the song Brain Dance, you know, in Madness of Many. The rest of the album was like super techie, over the top, you know, riff stuff. And then there was Brain Dance, which is like a completely different departure. It still sounded like Animals, but there was the level of, this is something we don't normally do, but here it is. And then it ended up being a really cool song that, you know, people dug. So I think we always have that sort of avenue, right? Like, to say that we'll run out of things to change, you know, it's extreme. I don't know what new technologies and new pedals and new softwares can come out for us to be able to, like, manipulate and get creative with, that can enhance, you know, create another signature sound of the band, you know?
Yeah.
So
You're not worried about it.
I'm not worried about
Not worried about it. You know, there's also, you have Mestis, which you do your solo stuff. That's also incredibly complicated and complex and deep, but it has a little bit of like a Latin flair to it, I think.
Yeah.
But have you ever thought of doing something like simple?
Like
a hardcore band?
Mestis is simple compared to Animals.
Well, sure, yeah. Compared to it, it's a lot more relaxing, I would say. We're getting helicopters. They found us.
I don't know if I'd ever be in a band or create something that's just very straightforward. I think there always has to be some level of complexity to it.
Yeah.
Or, you know, there has to be some level of complexity and more so originality. You know, and at this point, it's hard for me to almost think too simple.
Yeah.
You know, like,
You always try to overcomplicate it. Like if you have a riff, you're like, how can I add stuff?
I just don't find it necessarily. It depends on the part, right? Because there's melodies that we have that are very simple, but then there's other guitar parts that are not, right? They're the opposite of simple. You know, I kind of have to just like feel the stuff out. But anything that I do like, it tends to have some complexity to it that my ear just kind of gravitates to. Like, that's what I think sounds cool, you know? So for me to just think that I can write some 3 chords and kind of just
Caveman riffs.
yeah, caveman riffs, and it's just like, all right, well, it's a tried and true. Okay, cool, but it's hard for me to be like confident about it because then it doesn't. I don't hear originality and I don't hear creativity when it's too simple, So for me to, when I write something and I think and it sticks, I'm like, I have to impress myself in a little way.
Are you like that in every aspect of your life? Like, do you look for, when if it's something too simple, you just feel kind of anxious and like chilling at the beach, just laying down. Like I can never do that. I always want to get up and do something. What am I wasting my time here getting a tan?
I can absolutely chill at the beach.
You can? Okay, all right.
Yeah. Yeah, no, I don't think it,
Like food, does it have to be, layered and textured? Like, is it complex for you?
I like good food, yeah. And even at home when I cook, it's like, even,
You're not making mac and cheese.
I'm not making mac and cheese. And if I do make mac and cheese, it might have like roasted duck in it or
truffle oil.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, lobster.
Exactly.
Yeah, I get you. Yeah. I mean, I think that's what attracts me to your music as well, is just that I'm in that zone mentally, and I can force myself to chill on the beach, but I'm always like, I'm wasting time. I could be doing something.
Sure.
I don't know. I could be working. I could let me write something. Let me, whatever it is. But I think that mentality is what attracts me to the music, and I think it attracts most of the fans. It's like this. The music is almost like audio anxiety, to be honest. Like, it's just there's so much going on. And it's like like you hear the songs and like like it's like if you stop and just think about it, it feels like your mind is kind of fracturing while you're listening to it.
Yeah.
Do you find yourself when you're not working on music dealing with any kind of anxiety or that kind of stuff? Like
when I'm not dealing with music?
Yeah. When you're just off on your
own.
Oh
yeah. I mean, 100%.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What do you do to kind of relax or try to get away from that?
A number of things. Hang out with friends, get outside of that environment. Work out, go hiking, bike ride, anything that I can do to like not be anxious. But at the same time, it's not to say that I can be at the gym and lifting weights, but still thinking, fuck, I should go home after this and really like, so it doesn't necessarily go away. But yeah. I mean, I think it's normal.
Yeah.
It sucks.
It does suck. I mean, I guess there is a sense of normalcy to it because a lot of people suffer from it. There is a small segment we were talking about before with I have Cuban friends that don't believe in anxiety or stress. They don't know what that is. Like, what are you talking about?
It's not a matter of believing.
Yeah, I'm like, what are you talking about? I've very legitimate stress. Like, I'm graying out. I'm, things hurt that shouldn't be hurting. My last job, I didn't even realize it. I didn't get to talk to you about that, but my last job, I thought it was fine. Like, I'm working, it's fine, whatever. When I stopped working there, I realized how stressed out I was. Like, I wasn't biting my cuticles all the time. I was, scratching things, like scratching my head, and like now I'm more chill, and that's all stress.
Yeah.
It's nuts, man. Going back to a little music, Tram. What's up with that?
It was a project that we did in 2011.
Are you going to do anything else with that?
Probably not at this point. I mean, it would be cool, but at the same time, I think the way the band has evolved, it would kind of be like, Animals with another drummer. No, it wouldn't be exactly what it was supposed to be then.
Because it was more jazzy.
Yeah, it was way more jazzy. We also had a drummer who was like super choppy. I mean, at the time we had Naveen, who wasn't as choppy of a drummer as Matt is. So we got to work. We wanted to work with Eric to get that flavor, and we did. But now Matt kind of brings that into Animals, and
yeah, that dude's
I mean,
maniac.
Brain Dance alone could be almost like a Tram song.
Yeah.
Yeah. So
You just need some more horns and everything.
yeah, exactly. You know, so
Yeah. All right. So
I
that makes sense.
don't know. I mean, I would love to. I had Eric do drums on the Mestis stuff because he's such an epic drummer that I'm like, I gotta do something else with him.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think it would just be weird at this point. You know,
Yeah.
it would. We don't know how different to write than it would be with what we're already doing with Animals.
Okay. Now, when you're writing riffs, like do you write with a specific project in mind, or are you just jamming and then
Just
like if
write.
it fits, it fits?
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
What's your level of contribution in Animals, like in terms of writing? Like, is it free flowing, or is Tosin coming to the table with most of it?
Tosin definitely comes to the table with the majority of it. I mean, Animals Leaders is kind of his sound, you know. But as far as my contribution, I'm more in the production side of stuff. Musically, I mean, it's sprinkled across. Like, there's rhythm parts where it's like, oh, this is I added, or literally kind of directing Tosin on like what notes to play and what phrases. Same thing with Matt. You know, it kind of turns into a super collaborative sort of thing. Tosin will have a riff, but then, yeah, like mid riff, we're like, yo, instead of doing that, why don't we move this thing here? And then we start layering. It's like, oh, what if can you add this extra thing? So everybody's kind of contributing at the same time together.
Okay.
So it doesn't always come off as like this is the one section that was made exclusively by this one person. Riffs, absolutely. You know, I mean, with like in Monomyth, for instance, that whole drum pattern, Matt had that, which was a similar thing with Arithmophobia in Manus of Many. Matt had all these drums already written, and almost like an arrangement of these riffs going to have, but it was all drums. So then there we go, and we're like, okay, let's start adding, you know, a thumping pattern. And then I remember when we were doing Arrhythmo, I was just like, well, dude, we've never done thumping with like held notes here and there, and you know, so all these little ideas started coming up, and we're like, all right, well, let's harmonize it as well. It's like, okay, well, we started coming up with the riff to harmonize it. And then there'll be times also while most of the time we do all the writing at my spot. If like this, at least the songs that we do on our own, right? And yeah, they'll Matt and Tosin take off, and you know, I'm a nerd, so I just continue staying. I'll fuck around with synths and reamping stuff and doing different things that I need them to not even be in the room, so they're not driving me crazy, and vice versa.
Yeah.
So it's more, I would say more on the production side overall, but the writing is pretty collaborative, you know.
Okay.
Like a lot of times it'll be one song would just be like one riff that's had, and then the rest is actually written on the spot.
Okay. Well, shit, man. I mean, I know that it feels. I don't know. There's a balance that you guys strike that I like with making stuff too produced sounding, I guess, you know.
Sure.
And making it sound live or authentic and not analog, but you know what I mean.
Just yeah. Human.
Like for example, when you look, human. When you look at like those clips that Matt's putting out of him playing the drums, he makes it a point to specify one shot, live drums, no editing.
Yeah.
Because that to me is super important. Because when you hear music like what you guys do, sometimes immediately, you know, people that aren't in the know would just be like, oh yeah, they're just putting stuff together on MIDI or something, you know. So how do you strike that balance and not maybe push it too far? Like I know in the new album there is a song, I think Red Miso maybe has like a kind of a glitchy part to it.
Yeah.
Do you try and stay away from that and just keep it more real? Because you were saying like trying to innovate your sound and find new ways to do crazy sound effects or pedals or whatever. Taking that live, it's got to be a pain in the ass.
Well, yeah, there's always a translation from album to live, right? Or recording to live. I think as far as keeping it human, it all depends on the nature of the band, right? we have a band where our drummer is great.
Yeah.
You know, like he is very dynamic and does all these cool little intricate things that we have to feature it.
Yeah.
Right? It is become an essential thing of the band. So when it comes to writing, yeah, there has to be a level of like naturalness that's left in the recording, for us to be able to achieve that, and also not to sound like computer, right? Because otherwise we could just do everything MIDI and it'll be fine. But you know, as far as guitar parts, I mean, there's definitely times where we're like chopping stuff up all small just to get the perfect take, because a lot of the times also we're writing in the moment, you know, like.
I think we're gonna get a band soon.
Yeah, I think we're gonna get hated on. Yeah, so there's just things that we can't do in the moment, that we have to use studio magic, right? But there's also a love we keep in mind. It's like, okay, well, it can't sound too fake. When we edit, it can't sound like, all right, you have to edit correctly, right? For it to actually sound natural. So that's definitely part of the recording process. I think more and more we're aware of what works live versus what doesn't work live, and I think that's influencing a little bit of
how far you can take it.
Yeah, exactly. Like I remember with Weightless, you know, we used a synth for a bass and all sorts of different stuff. And a lot of the songs didn't translate live as well as we wanted it to. Many, similar thing. We were like, we got more songs out of the album that translated live, and then I think even with Parisia, it's almost like all the songs are translating live. So I don't know. I think we definitely keep in mind what sounds natural, but also what's going to sound cool live, and what do we like? How are we going to impress ourselves? Because we're bored of playing the other songs.
Yeah.
You know.
Yeah. Yeah, everybody wants to hear CAFO and
you know, and it's cool when we play them live. It's like, all right, this is awesome. Even playing some of the Joy Motion stuff, playing Physical Education. You know, like I can't tell you how many times I played that song. And
that's got to be your most I wouldn't say commercial, but just kind of accessible song, I think.
Yeah, I would think so.
Right? Like your single, not your single, but
the least harmless.
Yeah, the least harmless. So.
Or at least harmful. Yeah.
At least harmful. Now, you said you used a synth bass. Have you ever, do you have an actual bass that goes in the albums at time?
Yeah, 100%.
And does it, why not have a bass player? I guess because it just gets buried with all the 8 strings.
It was circumstantial. When Tosin and I were kind of first starting the whole thing, we could barely find a drummer. Yeah, every drummer that we were, talking to was either at the time it was limited options also. So we couldn't find a drummer, and we were like, oh, we should at least worry about the drummer, and then we'll figure out the bass situation. And literally, I met Naveen 5 days before the first tour, the first show.
Really?
Yeah, the first show. We didn't have a drummer. We were like, we don't know what we're gonna do. We might just go, both of us play on stage and drum backing tracks. Naveen said he sent his kit. I picked him up at the airport. We went to rehearse. 5 days later, we were on tour.
Wow. That's nuts.
And then from that point on, tours just kept popping up, and we were doing a lot of back-to-back tours. So in between tours, we were exhausted. And we're like, I don't want to have to deal with anything except for prepare for the next tour. So it just kind of came. It was like, all right, well, we're a 3-piece, and it became that. But it's not.
I mean, it's not missing. You guys make up for it with the 8 string. And
there's enough happening.
Yeah.
And at this point, also the way we've been writing, most of the bass parts are kind of complementing the guitars only. Anyways, we'd have to start writing differently, which isn't a bad thing, but it just would. It's like a weird thing. Anybody who can do it is probably very good, but then they'd be playing some boring parts.
All right, yeah. Yeah, just basically following along with the foundations.
Yeah. Yeah, I think we're going to get hated on with some music.
Yeah, I don't know. Should we move? Or should we just leave it as background music?
Are we going to leave it as background music? It's kind of sick.
I think if we talk closer to the mic, I can tweak it in Pro Tools or whatever. So the new album has very specific visuals when it comes to the videos.
Sure.
There's a lot of like, what's the word I'm looking for? Like performance art, kind of dancing. Was that like? I was gonna say, is that what the lyrics are about? There's no lyrics. Like, is that thematically something that you guys wanted from the beginning?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, one, I think we've never quite nailed it visually with like what the band represents visually, right? Outside of what we look like, you know, the album covers were always very abstract, very genty,
very fractal.
Yeah, exactly.
Very out there. Yeah.
So this time, you know, I think we attempted with Madness of Many to escape that, and we started putting a little bit more type of identifiable imagery. And then with Madness, we were like, okay, well, let's have all the visual components be as artful as the music is, you know, because the music is complex, the music is very artful. You know, why not, or can we please already have the good art that's attached to it? So we spent a lot of time and, you know, and money trying to figure this stuff out, and I'm stoked on the videos. I mean, I think they've been home runs.
You guys nailed it for sure.
It's also before that, technically we only have 2 music videos before that. So
Physical Education and
CAFO.
CAFO. That's it. Wow.
There's a couple of live videos, but that was literally made with like footage from our homie Randy, who films us on tour. So
yeah, Randy Edwards.
Yeah, the homie.
Yeah, man. The thing is too with your type of music, it lends itself to see more performance videos off the, like, it's nice to have the visual art aspect of it, but most, at least for me, I want to see what you guys are doing, because it doesn't make sense in my brain. So
Sure.
I just like, what how is his fingers moving that fast, that kind of shit.
Yeah, so there was a big back and forth with the label. They wanted us in the videos and us, playing and all this stuff. And we're like, yo, we don't even want to be in there. We're like, what are we gonna do with these dancing monks? Like, how are we gonna make that blend well? You know,
Yeah.
We're like, if also the band's been around for some time. We're like, they'll get plenty of opportunities to see us play it. Let's have this art piece separate. Let it be the wine to the steak sort of thing. Like,
Sure, yeah.
It's
complimentary.
Yeah, like when you look at that video, and it's like, you can almost hear the song as well. I mean, I think some of those videos were that strong.
Yeah.
And for the genre, it's just very unique. We wanted to do that too. Like, what is no one else doing in our genre that can make us just stand out a little bit more?
Well, I mean, you guys stand out a lot. Like, I guess I'm not the best person to say that, because I don't really listen to a lot of genty type of music. There's a handful, like Tesseract, Periphery, but I'm not like, there's too many in my opinion. Like, I remember, have you heard this band or that band? I'm like, it's enough. It's enough. We've got it. They figured it out, and you guys, no one sounds like you. That's why when I asked earlier, like, what do you call your music? Because it's not gent, and it's proggy, but like it's super technical, and there's elements of, I want to say, like Spain, flamenco guitar things that are involved.
We sound like what we sound like. I think we were at the right place at the right time, with as far as like coming up with the sound, sort of thing.
Yeah.
I also think generationally there's always a handful of bands that kind of define what the scene is, sort of thing, or what one of the cool new things is.
Mm-hmm.
and then there's a shitload of bands that follow afterwards, but none of those actually kind of last. I mean, think about how many bands came out when Korn and Limp Bizkit were out, like tons of bands that were popping off, but there's only a handful of them that are actually still
around touring,
or still like noteworthy.
A lot of them had like a lot of one-hit wonders in that era as well.
Yeah, so I think prog metal and gent or whatever, I don't think it's going to be any different. I mean, I think bands like Animals, Periphery, Tesseract, Contortionist, luckily, again, being at the right place, right time sort of thing, we got to be some of those bands, right? None of us are massive to the point where like...
Right. But it's a very niche style of music, you're not going to be on WWE or anything.
Yeah, but I think it's going to be another, while before somebody can take that influence and make it new again. Mm-hmm. Like, because if they're sounding like Periphery or they sound like Tesseract or they sound too much like us, it's almost like you can't do it, right? It's like, think about how many bands probably wanted to sound like Dillinger,
sure,
and they couldn't, or how many Slipknot bands have come out and they can't. You can't redo Slipknot because Slipknot's doing it really well.
Yeah, and they're still doing it.
And it's going to take a while before somebody can kind of get massive with that sound again, or figure out how to like do more with it.
Yeah. I mean, I honestly, sometimes I just wonder, like, where do we go from here in terms of music? Like,
you never know.
When I was younger, it was like, oh, it's gonna get all techno-y and it's gonna be all, rave music or whatever. Like, that's the sound of the future, but that never happened.
I mean, it depends on what circle we're.
Yeah, I guess. Yeah, we're in a different circle for sure.
I mean, you're not really. There's no metal fests really like in the U.S. that are like, Electric Daisy or Coachella.
Yeah.
Where they're. Some of these DJs are getting extravagant amount of money, so
yeah,
there's
that's
a lot
European
of
thing, like Arctangent, for example. Like those types of festivals are out there. They're not really here.
No. Yeah, it's very cool. I mean, Download, Hellfest, they're pretty epic. Yeah.
Why don't we have that here?
I don't know. I have no clue.
Like it's Hellfest sounds great. It's a week long. Every single band is playing. Every band that's ever existed is playing.
I think travel culture is different in Europe than it is here. Like the infrastructure. It's easy to take a train somewhere.
Yeah.
Or even flights in Europe or between countries. It's not that expensive. Whereas here, I mean, it can cost $1,000 just to go to New York.
Yeah.
So
that's so wild.
Yeah, dude.
Yeah, I was in Spain. It took me $60 to go to Germany. You know what I mean?
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. So I think that has a lot to do with it.
Yeah.
Other than that, but
yeah, I mean, I wish that. So does that discourage you in any way? Like, do you even give a shit about like being super super famous? Like, because it feels like there is a ceiling to this type of music.
Sure.
There's a level you unless you start making more simple or cookie cutter type of sound, like you're not going to get to those like levels that all the other popular people are at. Does that bother you? Like, do you not care? You're here for the art.
I don't really care. I consider myself to be somewhat normal-ish. I've had my non-normal behavior days, but
sure.
But I don't know. Like, I come from a normal ass like upbringing, working class immigrant family. So to think, oh damn, I'm not gonna get like fucking Rick James famous.
Yeah. That was never the aspiration.
That was never the aspiration.
Do you think? So are you at this point financially good and well off enough to just keep doing this till you're done?
It has its up and down. I mean, dude, I'm always trying to do other stuff to like supplement. I mean,
you were doing Twitch for a while.
Yeah. I still do it from time to time, but Yeah, I mean, I just put out a software sort of thing to, again, to figure out any extra stuff. Yeah, I mean, I hope to be doing animals, for the rest of our lives until we don't. None of us have any plans on not doing it.
Yeah.
But I think for a number of reasons. I mean, I think just even psychologically, at least for me, I always like doing new things. I get bored easily.
Yeah.
So, I'm always doing something new. Literally over COVID, I learned how to code that software thing, and it was just like, okay, well, I'm doing this now, and then I'm having to go to Indiana to also mix and do all this other stuff, and so I worry about more so like how am I gonna just keep my brain active and keep my brain creative. Thankfully, it's been financially good enough for me to get by, to like have a living, but
especially here in LA, it's an expensive living.
and I'm from DC. It's not any cheaper.
Yeah, that's true. Miami's bad too.
Yeah, dude. So
Yeah.
outside of this, I've lived in New York, where it also isn't any cheaper.
Yeah.
So
you're used to it.
Yeah, I'm like, this is the cost of living for humans.
Yeah. They pay well here too, man. Like I have friends from Miami. Like, why are you over there? It's so expensive. I'm like, it's the same price in Miami, only I get paid more.
Right.
So it's actually not that bad. Like, if you could find ways to move around. But so is there any other like project that intrigues you? Like, do you want to make a coffee?
We made a coffee with our homie Rosie.
Or like, do you want to open up? There's people like, oh, making beers.
We called the coffee Thumptown.
Thumptown?
Yeah.
Did you get any shit from Stumptown?
No. It was called Thumptown.
That's great.
Yeah, it was pretty good.
I mean, but you don't want to become like, you don't want to like, I think it's Paul from BT Bam.
He has his coffee.
Yeah, you don't want to have like a coffee shop, a roastery.
No, dude, I grew up in a restaurant, and the idea of opening up a brick and mortar, like,
is it PTSD?
Yeah, PTSD. No, if I wanted to do that, I'd just move back to DC and,
Does your family still have the restaurant?
We still have a restaurant. It's been 40 years this last month.
Oh, what's it called?
El Tamarindo.
El Tamarindo. I like it. So so Reyes, is it Colombian?
I mean, Reyes is from all over. It's just a last name. It's
so like your family, where are they from?
El Salvador.
El Salvador. Okay.
Yeah, I was born in DC, but El Salvador.
Have you ever felt compelled to like embrace your heritage, your culture more? Like do like a whole Spanish album where you
I mean,
Mestis is kind of there.
Yeah, I think that's kind of the vibe there.
Mm-hmm.
And then just doing it in an instrumental level,
Yeah.
I'm not gonna sing on an album, especially not in Spanish. I can speak Spanish, but it's just I'm terrible with lyrics. It's just like.
Well, so I was gonna say, like, do you have a thing against vocalists? Because I mean,
no, not at all.
Animals and
I love vocalists. I listen to most of the music that I listen to probably has vocals on it.
It's just easier to do the thing that you're good at and familiar with than having to write vocals.
Yeah, at this point, I'm just like familiar with it. I have done stuff, like since Animals with vocalists, but not like a project that I'm putting out. It'll be some like random behind the scenes stuff or for like TV type shit.
Okay.
But I'm not opposed to it. I love singers. Most of the singers that I want to work with are definitely not in metal.
Yeah. Where were we?
We got some new background music.
Yep. The whitest lady in the world is performing Macy's music, like we said.
Straight up Macy's music.
We'll wrap it up soon. I mean, we're at 38 minutes, so it's pretty good so far. But just have a couple more things. The reason I brought up the embracing your Latin heritage. Like, I started thinking about that now in my 40s. I'm like, I'm Cuban. I should do something with that. And like, I don't know what. You know, I did a podcast all in Spanish just to test myself. And it was such a pain in the ass to like subtitle everything, make sure everything was translated properly. Because with Cubans, we talk in like slang. So it's hard to translate.
Half words.
Yeah. And not only that, but like jokes don't make any sense in Spanish when you translate them.
Yeah.
I can't. You know, we were watching, you know, the Beachy Boys. Have you seen that where they dub over other things? Like they dubbed over the movie 300. And it was hilarious to me, but then I translated it to my wife, and she's like, "That's not funny." I'm like, "Yeah, it doesn't work."
Yeah, because so much of it is just how language works.
Yeah,
you know, like the translations always don't. The meanings for the words don't always translate properly.
Yeah.
But I mean, I think the Mestis was probably the way of doing that. Mm-hmm. One Mestis is the Catalan pronunciation. Or the Catalan word, I don't know if I'm pronouncing it right, of mestizo.
Mestizo.
Right, which is what we are.
Yeah.
Right? You're Cuban, I'm Salvadoran. It's just European and native mixed, right, over generations. I wanted to include part of the Latin-esque stuff, you know, but with the Mestis stuff. Or with that said, with the Latinx stuff, as much as Latino that I am and speak Spanish well, you know, I eat tortillas, I can cook a fucking burrito. Despite all that, I grew up in D.C.
Yeah.
You know, like I didn't grow up in El Salvador. I didn't grow up in some exclusive, you know, homogenous area where there was only one language. So I grew up listening to all sorts of shit. I didn't even really start getting into Latin music until I got older. I was playing classical stuff and it had some Latin stuff into it, but as a child, I was like, this is my curriculum. This isn't like what I like. I'd try to take my guitar lessons, but then I'd go home and like listen to like LL Cool J, or Bobby Brown and stuff like that. So when it comes to writing, as far as with the Mestis stuff, I try to include a little bit of all that, you know, like it's just like, yo, this is just me. Like this is, I'm not gonna write something that I don't know. Like, you know, I even with some of the metal stuff, it's very like, these are the me parts, and I'm basing it off of what I know, what I feel naturally.
Yeah. Do you feel? I mean, because this is something I've felt. Same thing. I grew up in New Jersey. I was born in New Jersey. I'm not Cuban.
Right.
My parents are Cuban. But I never felt like I belonged to any group. Like, I'm not Cuban enough.
Yeah, when you grow up somewhere so different, you're like, I mean, dude, I grew up in D.C. and it was like diverse as fuck. We have every single embassy there, so you always meet somebody from some random ass place. Sure, there's a lot of Latinos. Sure, there's a lot of, you know, whites, blacks. But that's what I just knew. Jersey can't be that different.
Yeah, it's pretty similar.
Yeah, and it wasn't until I started touring where I was just like, oh shit, I'm in El Paso. Everyone here is Hispanic. Yeah. This is kind of weird to me. Or you go to different areas where it was just like, oh shit, this is a really white area. This also feels weird to me.
Yeah.
You know, so that's why I live in LA. That's why I've lived in DC and New York only. Like I'm used to that.
Yeah.
I've been to El Salvador and I love El Salvador. It's cool. It's great, but it's a vacation destination.
Yeah, you don't
for
feel
me.
like you're from there.
Yeah, not at all. You know, it's like you might even could say that I carry myself differently than somebody from there.
Yeah.
You know.
Yeah, absolutely, for sure. Yeah, I'm the same way, man. I've never felt like I'm starting to write comedy because I'm working at the store, so I'm trying to try my hand at it. But my first joke has been, you know, I'm not white enough to get invited to brunch, but I'm also not brown enough to use the N-word. You know what I mean?
Sure.
So yeah, I never felt like I belonged to any group. Like all my Cuban friends from high school, I'm too metal for them. Like they don't like. I'm Satanist. You know, like satanico.
I think that's some East Coast shit.
Yeah.
Because growing up for me too, it was just like in high school I was the one of two metal Latino kids.
Yeah.
You know, and then of my family members, maybe like 4 of us. And we, Latinos have massive families.
Yeah.
Because we got all the primos and primas and
Everybody
fucking
likes
tios.
fucking.
Yeah. And, we were like the white ones because we were listening to metal.
Yeah, my old Cuban friends took me to learn how to dance salsa because we were doing like a quince. So I didn't really, like I danced fucking around with my family, but never took it seriously for like a coordinated thing. And I would show up to these classes to learn how to dance salsa with like Metallica shirts, and they were just like, "Fuck is this guy? Like, what are you doing here?"
So you don't have a button up?
Yeah. Where's your salsa shirt with the flowers and? So you're gonna hit the road soon, right?
In October.
I think I saw that. Is it Killswitch?
Yes. We have like 6 or 7 shows with Lamb of God and Killswitch and Fit for an Autopsy.
I'm wondering how the Lamb of God crowd will take you guys.
I don't know.
Or the Killswitch crowd, because that's a specific crowd too.
We've done a show with Killswitch forever ago here I think it was Bakersfield. Some festival.
Oof, Bakersfield.
Yeah. I don't know. I mean, dude, we've played some with some.
Okay, so what's the most? Which band have you played with that doesn't really fit with what you guys do? Like, what's the most weird combination? And not putting them down.
No,
everybody has their style.
We did a Under Oath tour.
Okay.
And it was a Skylit Drive, us, Thursday, and
no.
Under Oath. To me, that was a weird one. I mean, it was a cool.
Thursday. I love but that's not a good fit.
The Under Oath tour, like I think we fit a little bit more with the Under Oath. With Thursday, it was kind of a weird mix, but it's always been fine. I mean, dude. Also, early on, we did a tour with Circa Survive, and it was us opening Code 7, Dredge, yeah, and then Circa Survive. So that lineup right there also is like, whoa, what the hell?
Dredge is a weird one too. They have a hard time because I saw them with like RX Bandits, and the crowd was like turning on them.
There's that band I Prevail.
I remember that.
We just did the show with them a few years ago at Red Rocks, and I was like, I don't know how this is gonna go, but it was cool.
Yeah.
So
I mean, I think you guys have such a level of talent that even if you're not particularly aware or knowledgeable or into that type of prog metal, just the talent alone is enough to just be like, whoa, like fuck it, whatever, you know.
I would say this: when we first started, we had no idea who we were gonna go on tour with. There wasn't like really. Now there's like a lot more instrumental bands, right?
Yeah.
But before that, we were like, who the fuck's gonna take us out? Like, we originally had actually the plan was to just do the one tour and go back home, but we kept getting offers, and it was like, okay, let's do it.
Yeah, that's a weird one, man. I saw Between the Buried and Me with Coheed, and even though they're both proggy bands, it's a completely different crowd.
Yeah, 100%.
Yeah, like my wife is into Coheed, and it was we were like surrounded by just a bunch of little girls that were there for Coheed, and when BT Band started playing, they were like holding their ears, like like it was too much screaming. Like
yeah, I mean, think about like Mastodon's another prog band, right?
Yeah.
So is Polyphia.
Yeah. That's a wide.
You know what I mean? Like
difference.
I don't know if those fans would ever like. But it's who's to say? Like, Polyphia does their thing, Mastodon does their thing.
I mean, there's people like us that enjoy all of it, right?
Yeah.
So there is we're just, I think, smaller in numbers for that. Well, I'm excited. I'm going to be at that show because, Killswitch are the homies. I've known Adam for a while. Those are the dudes. And I recently befriended Art and Jay from Lamb of God. They were hanging out here recording their album. So I'm stoked to see that. And I haven't seen you guys. I mean, fuck, I don't even know. I think last time I saw you was in Pomona at the Glass House. Was that like 2019, 2018?
2019, probably
2019?
early 2019.
So yeah, it's been a long time. I wasn't able to come out to the. You guys played 1720, was it?
We have.
Oh, I mean like the recent tour that you did.
No.
No.
We did Ace Theater.
The Ace. That's right. I
Yeah.
couldn't go to that night. It bummed me out. But so Mestis, before we sign off, are you working on new stuff? It's been a while, right? 2019, 18.
Before that, I think it was like 16 or 17. Also, 17 or 8. I don't know.
I think it came out in 18.
Yeah. Yeah, it's been a minute. I have a bunch of stuff. Most of the stuff that I've been writing though is like way heavier. It's so.
You gonna do another project?
I don't know. Maybe who knows? Like I try to keep. I don't know what I want to do with some of the sounds. Same thing. I don't want to repeat myself. I don't want to make the same thing. So I'm trying to figure out what extra cool thing to do with it that isn't the previous album. So with Mestis is a slightly different thing. I don't tour it as much. I've only done 2 tours with it, and so creatively, I almost have even more liberty, right, of where I can go with it.
Yeah.
What I'm not gonna. As of now, I'm not gonna perform it as much. So, or I have no plans. So I'm trying to figure out what I can do extra with it that isn't gonna be just more of the same.
Get a vocalist. That'll throw people off.
That is an option. That is an option.
Shit, man. What bands are you listening to before, like
Johnny Booth?
Johnny Booth. Okay.
Yeah. Johnny Booth. Alt. It's called ALLT.
Oh, I haven't heard
They're
that.
sick. Swedish band. Alt. I've been listening to this band. Their album came out maybe like 2 years ago. I Am Abomination. I really dig it. I don't know if they tour at all. And then the new fucking. I'm blanking out. Never mind. That's it.
Okay. And well, I think right before we took that break, we were talking about vocalists, and I was like, I just started listening to the new Alexis on Fire, and Dallas Green's voice in metal doesn't make sense when you think about it. I mean, I guess they're metal. Their new album is a lot more sludgy, kind of stonery, to be honest. It kind of sounds like Red Fang. But yeah, like that dude, that's one of those voices that, to me, doesn't really, when you think about it on paper, doesn't make sense. But when you hear it, it's like, what the fuck, dude? Why is that dude so talented? But yeah, that's what I've been listening to a lot. The new Alexis on Fire, which I've never been into them. I was never into them when I was younger. Everybody when they were in their,
I don't know. I don't know anything about that band.
They used to be, I mean, the way that I used to see them, it was, they had the hair in their face, and it was for girls. Like, so I just never gave them the time of day. I was like, nah, it's not for me.
You weren't a girl.
I wasn't a girl, and I was into like super, like, death metal. I was exploring the depths of death and black metal, and like the heavier the better. So having melody was like, get the fuck out of here, pussy. But now listening to their new album, like, wow, I'm an idiot. I just never gave them a chance.
Pussy's tight.
Yeah, dude. I love pussy. What am I doing? Anyway, dude, let's get out of here.
All right.
I don't know how much more of this music I can take.
Yeah, it's pretty bad.
But yeah, thank you so much, dude, for doing the show. I know we've been trying to do it for a while, and I'm glad to see you. It's been years.
Yeah.
Everybody that's watching and listening, where do they find all your stuff?
Like
Plugs. Your personals, where do they get your...
animalsleaders.org for all stuff Animals Leaders. SateraAudio.com for my software that I made with drum plugin. Mestismusic.com. The Google's a good one. Google that shit.
Google Javier Reyes, guitarist.
That. There you go.
All right, man. Thank you.
Yeah, man.
Cheers, everyone.
Peace.